This episode of Heroes of the Horn is brought to you by Aiel Clan Chief Jeremy Boucher. May you always find water and shade.
Welcome to Heroes of the Horn, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Sir Matt.
And I am Sir Ezra. Welcome to our Wheel of Time book club. The horn has sounded, and we have answered the call. Today we are covering The Eye of the World, chapters 18 through 26.
Yeah, man, it is getting dark. Is that the right thing to say? Wow.
Right, yeah, maybe.
Just seems like a short time ago we were getting ready for Beltane, and
Yes.
things all our concerns were just can we get a pie,
Right.
And now we got lions and Trollocs and bears. Oh my.
Come on.
Fades.
Yep.
Mordith, we're going to talk about him a lot today. What is going on there, man?
Yeah, you're losing it. I mean, it is it's dark. I mean, just like it's winter time too here for us, and so it's also kind of mirroring the chapters that we read in that way. It's something. I love too that you in this big sort of section of chapters so we've got 18 through 26. I mean, chapter 18 and 19, you're just sort of like you're like, Ez, I'm stuck here. This is where I'm at. Like what's going on?
Well, seriously, we pick kind of one kind of chapter or one kind of key element to focus on, and this time there's just a lot in these 8 chapters, and just the one. There's just a lot because now that everyone's kind of split up. Spoiler alert, I guess, if you haven't read them, but they all get split up, and it kind of changes things.
Yeah, it does. There's more to cover. There's more to keep track of, and again, that's sort of why you have to be a hero of the horn. There's a lot to cover. You have to be with it, on guard and ready to go, because there's a lot to discuss, and I really, and you honed in on the right thing too, because I was going to do the extended edition. With their time in Shadar Logoth, and you decided no, like let's I think that's where you really wanted to focus, and I like that. I'm glad that you felt that way. So
yeah, I mean, there's kind of in this segment of chapters, I'd say that there's 3 or kind of big areas I'd say to kind of focus on. And today we're gonna cover Mordith and that dagger. I think that's pretty big. We're gonna talk a little bit about Nynaeve and her role in this. She has a big conversation with Moraine.
Yeah.
What else? What else is going on? We've got Egwene and Perrin off with the Tinkers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Rand and Matt
with Tom.
There's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
They spent. What do they have to make some choices with the coin that Moraine gave them.
Right.
So I mean, there's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. But yeah, let's get into this. So first of all, my friend, how you doing?
I'm good, man. It's February on Twitter and all over the internet. Everyone was saying that felt like the longest January ever.
Yeah.
I not necessarily for me, but that's just kind of what everyone is saying. But it is my favorite weekend of the year. It is Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah.
We've got some gold miners against some Chiefs.
Yeah,
is where we're at, and I will go ahead and say it since we're posting it today. While I think the 49ers are a better team, I just got to go with my with Patrick, my homeboy, Andy Reid. I'm going with the Chiefs, 34-28.
Shame. Wow, that whole gift of foretelling is really getting to you. You're really, really taking it to another level there, aren't you? No, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a good weekend. I'm excited to watch that as well and see if there's commercials, promos, trailers,
commercials,
whatever.
good food.
Yeah.
What is your favorite? It's like Thanksgiving. We talk about what you got. Turkey, gravy. What's your favorite Super Bowl Sunday food?
Oh man, wow. Gosh, I don't know. Typically, like traditionally, it's like you got to have a pizza and you got to have a ton of different chips. Like think of all the chip commercials too that are in, or that that happened during the Super Bowl. I mean, there's so many different chip commercials. It's amazing. So yeah, I always have a bunch of chips, a bunch of dips. I think it's the way to go.
A buffalo dip for me, number one.
Yeah,
gotta have it.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, now that you said this, so a tradition. In the Kirk household, we always have. My sister brings a 7-layered like salad dip, like a taco salad dip or something. I don't know what it's really called. It's got different layers to it. It's delicious and it's just like it's a hit. So yeah, I guess there's that because I actually just got a text from her and she was talking about if we still want if Dad and I wanted that for tomorrow. Yeah, I mean of course we do.
Yeah,
like come on. So
I'd say so.
Anyways, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so we're excited about that, dude. I'm also excited. It's again, I'm still we made it through January 2020. We're inspired. Big updates, big things we're still working on in our podcasting projects. We've got some within a month. You're going to hear some pretty exciting news from us, I think, and that's really all I guess I want to say about it yet.
Yeah.
If you listen to Bend the Knee, you'll definitely. You'll actually probably hear about it this week, I think. So, pay attention. Yeah, on Monday.
Yeah, all we can say is that you'll see some big things.
You will see a few that. Yes. So, it's exciting. I'm inspired. I was talking to I don't know why this has hit me. I want to share this real quick. Just like I was talking to one of my students about like just prepping and getting ready and getting motivated. Like he's about to graduate and. Like he doesn't know what he wants to do, doesn't want to go to college, whatever. And we're looking at just alternative ways, things that he can do. And I've been thinking about him, right? And it was funny to me. He this week came to me and told me there was something different about him. He had a different presence about him. And I literally thought of this book and I thought of these characters and how they change and how like, Robert Jordan's often said he wanted to write a story about a character who was tapped on the shoulder and told, hey, you're the savior of the world. Let's go. Like, come with me. Let's go. And this is sort of like, it's that grand epic tale that he's telling. We don't know who that individual is yet. We don't know what's going on, but like, that's the idea, right? And these characters throughout different times, something takes over. There's something that they find along life's journey that settles them, that they find like they seek the void, this calm, this peace, and they're able to do more. And so I was thinking of the void, and I was thinking of Rand, and they talk about the archery competition in the first few chapters and just what that's like. He always refers back to that in his training with Tam. And this student of mine had said that he had found the key to the door, and he was sharing with me just sort of like what he wanted to do moving forward, and that he was pulling on. He was trying to open the wrong door. He was trying to tear it down, etc., yada, yada, but he had the key the whole time. And he had to get like settled and do some deep reflection and searching and stuff. So it just kind of like fired me up and motivated me. And I thought more about the books that we read and those characters and what the author is trying to communicate to us, like the lesson and the theme that come out of these stories. And that's why I'm here, man. That's why I love the book clubs that we do. And I love to gather like over on Patreon. We have some really good thoughts about the last couple, episodes / chapters, and I can't wait to discuss those. So I'm just super pumped right now, I guess. Still on a high.
Let's go.
Yeah. So there's that. Whew, okay.
All right.
And with that, I guess, I should lead into our first selection because here's the thing. Like, I didn't think we'd hit this already, but we've already hit our first, Patreon goal. And it is after like the first 10 people who kind of signed up, we'd said we would do a selection. And I think we thought that would be like way down the line, and we were not expecting this type of support and for people to, it's fantastic. So we were doing our first selection, and I kind of thought about the the individuals in this story, and Matt knows a little bit about this because the name of the podcast is Heroes of the Horn. So you know that we've heard tales of the
They're
Horn.
a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal, right? So it takes more than bravery to bind a man or a woman to the Horn. And only a few are bound to the wheel and spun out again and again to work the will of the wheel in the pattern of the ages. And so I thought what we would do is we would kind of do like a random selection, right? And we have a kind of a giveaway, if you will, for our first selection. And we wanted to announce it on the podcast. Then we're going to hit those individuals up. But actually every, I think 10 or 20, as we increase, we're doing a pretty major giveaway. So it's just kind of fun. If you want to be entered in that, all you have to do is go sign up, that's it. Doesn't matter what level. Yeah. So here we go. The first selection, the power of 3 is at work here. I was thinking about Taviran. I've been thinking about my shout out to my buddy Lane, who is obsessed with the power of 3. And in Tolkien's work, in Lord of the Rings, which, Robert Jordan was a big fan of and often made sort of allusions to or little nods to in his work, the power of 3 is a big deal. So yeah, we've randomly selected these individuals who are now bound to the wheel and who must forever answer the call of the Horn of Valir. So here we go. Lady Amanda of House Ryan was selected. Laura Lynn Sedai was selected, and Jewel Destrade was also selected. And so those individuals, I will be reaching out to you guys just on Patreon, send you guys a message, and we have a really cool kind of designed a t-shirt for you guys, so we're going to send you that, and then we also have, surprise sort of other little shindig thing, something special. You have to open the package and see what we got. So it should be fun.
Yeah. What is it?
Yeah, I'm not. It's it's just something. It's just something. It's.
I don't even know.
Yeah, Matt doesn't even know. He doesn't even know. Yeah. So no, I will say it's kind of tied to some of the stuff that we do in our Patreon series. Things that your brother brought you one of these. Okay, and it's
gotcha.
Yeah. So I always kind of feel like there's not much, right? Like the show. I think when the show comes out, we're gonna have more merch and maybe Funko Pops and things like that. Fun stuff that we can also kind of continue to give away.
It's gonna be big. It's gonna be big.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be pretty similar to. I mean, I don't know that it will immediately have the overwhelming TV success that Game of Thrones had, but it's certainly going to expand it, make it bigger, bring it to a new audience, and I'm sure we'll start to see a lot more Wheel of Time stuff out there.
I think so too. So yeah, we're actually that's great. It's a great little segue into the Village Council because we do have some show news and some things we'd like to kind of talk about. And so, Sir Matt, I put a link in here, and I want to give a shout out to DragonMount.com. They've been around for ages, right? For ages and ages. And I always like to respect people who have been in this and working on this for a long time, because when I got into reading the series, this was a resource that I went to, and there are other wikis out there that have been around, and people have been working on this for some time. So it's pretty cool. There's just so many characters. There's so many different places and locations, and the world is so big that it does take a lot to kind of, it takes a team essentially to keep track of all of it and to log and index everything. So yeah, let me pull this up here real quick. It's just sort of like a casting rundown. So they've got all the updates on the show, and I'm going to put this link maybe in the description of this episode, and I definitely going to share it on Facebook and over on Patreon so folks can check this out. But they've got confirmed cast members, and we are getting new Aes Sedai kind of like left and right, which is awesome. We know that there's a lot of them in this series, and it's going to be kind of cool to see just different people fill those roles. I don't know. I kind of am blown away by some of the names that we're seeing. They're not like those household names,
They're not. Yeah, they're really. In all honesty, I went through and I clicked on a lot of these people, and other than Michael how do you pronounce that guy's name? McCatton, I think.
Yeah.
Who's going to play Tam? Who is Roose Bolton?
Oh yeah,
Thrones.
yeah.
McElton. I don't know.
Rosamund Pike is. I mean, that's
right.
She's definitely no. I mean, and a lot of these people. Also, I think it depends on where you live. Some of these, British actors and stuff that we don't. Maybe they're in different TV shows and films and things that we're we're not as familiar with. Some of them are just younger, up and coming, and so I think it's cool because this feels sort of like honestly like the Wheel of Time series. And what they're doing with this on Amazon, it feels like it's going to be at the same level as like the Lord of the Rings on Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like it's going to be that big. And so I'm like, these people know this is huge. Like the pressure is on. Like this what's his name? Barney Harris, right? I don't know who he's playing. He's playing Matt. I'm excited. I don't know who this guy is. I haven't done a lot of research yet to kind of look up previous roles and things, but it's
not a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He has 10 credits. Looks like he was in some show called Click, where he was in a handful of episodes. Don't know anything about it. That's about it. I've never heard of it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think a lot of these people, and again, as you said, could be because we don't live over in England, a lot of these British actors, or just European actors, stuff like that, we just don't end up seeing them.
Right. But
we'll see.
So
I think it's going to be good. The cast looks
it's a stunning, right. It's very interesting. Here's something. So they did such a good job with this, and I really do want to give them this credit here. So dragonmount.com, I'm going to put the link in here. If you guys, like, initially when you look at the link, you're going to see like a list, like a chart of different characters with their IMDb pages and all that kind of stuff. And then when they were announced as being a part of this, we know that they're shooting this now. Like some of this is going on now. There's been a lot of pictures of the episode 1 and episode 2 script. They've been reading through that. There's a lot of Instagram photos there. Brandon Sanderson went in and read the first 2 and enjoyed it, liked it. I'm like, okay, like, let's go. That's awesome. But I want to send this link to you guys because they actually have a picture, sort of, I don't know if this was Ariel Burgess or not, or who did the artwork for some of these little, like, they're kind of putting the face of our actor next to the character, like a cartoon, or like a drawing of that character based upon the book. So it's really kind of cool to see that side by side, and make that connection, I guess. So because now as I'm rereading, I'm reading Moraine, and I'm thinking Rosamund Pike, like I'm putting her face there, and I'm seeing her as Moraine, even though I haven't seen her in costume or makeup or anything yet. I'm starting to see it. So I think it's pretty neat, just adding a whole new layer. So
yeah, I'm going through and looking at a lot of these people, and it seems like a lot of these people, they have a lot of credits, right? There's those actors that especially you think back kind of towards the 90s and the middle of the 2000s, kind of back when we didn't have Netflix and we didn't have Hulu and HBO, to HBO Go and all of these things, where everybody has their own series that they're working on, where it was more like sitcom based and show based, and you would see these actors where you're like, oh, he was on like one episode of this show, and he was on one episode of this show and one episode of this. It seems like that's what they've got a lot of here. People that have been in a lot of shows, but one episode, just for that episode, playing whatever role, So that's what it looks like a lot of this cast is.
Yeah, which is awesome, which is great. And they're going to bring it too. That's the other thing too, is that they have an energy. They're coming into this knowing that this is a really a great chance and opportunity for them to work on something huge. And this is big for Amazon. I mean, Amazon Studios, like, they're trying to make their mark with the Lord of the Rings series and Wheel of Time. Like, this is huge for them. So it's exciting. And it's also very encouraging that Brandon Sanderson read the first couple scripts and the first 2 episodes, and he says that they are very well done. And if you want, there's even another great link here where they kind of had like an interview with him, and people talked about, and you can kind of hear in his own words, or read in his own words, like what he thought of the script, which is fantastic. A couple other things here. Let's see. Yeah, people are speculating on Reddit, and just even in the comments. You go look on social media here, and you see it seems like they're going to be filming. They said it's a rather long kind of they're in principal photography. That began, September 16th there, 2019. And so filming now is expected to go until May, sometime in May 2020. And so we're looking at maybe expected in late 2020 or early 2021 is sort of the idea. So this is coming up. I mean, this is really we'll be through the first 3 or 4 books, and the show will be dropping.
Yeah, well, when is do you know when the Lord of the Rings Amazon is supposed to come out?
Oh boy, it's been next to nothing. There's actually been more out, I feel like. I mean, besides
Wheel of Time.
Yeah. They almost seem to be really moving along.
I would imagine right now I'm not super familiar with Amazon's big shows. I know Marvelous Miss Maisel is one, and then Jack Ryan.
Oh, Jack Ryan I've heard of. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Jack Ryan was really good, and that came out in around August. So you would think that they would want to have possibly a big show coming out like once a month is kind of like what I would imagine. That's kind of the way Netflix works. I mean, Netflix has a lot of their own series, like Stranger Things. Well, it comes out different times, but they wouldn't put Stranger Things at the same time as The Witcher, right?
Yeah, for sure.
When season 4 of Stranger Things comes out, it's not going to come out the same time as The Witcher, because you want to have that content that's keeping people there.
Yeah.
Throughout the year.
So you're kind of thinking, you're wondering whether, because obviously Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings are not going to come out at the same time. You want those they're separate.
Exactly, in staggered months.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Just like Game of Thrones was not out at the same time Westworld was.
Yeah. And that seems so simple, but I hadn't even really thought about that. So if they're kind of really, if Wheel of Time is working a little bit quicker and moving faster, then yeah, maybe they'll come out first, followed by, the Lord of the Rings series, which is kind of cool, and actually makes a little bit of sense because the Tolkien estate is, I think, sometimes can not they get their hands in things, and maybe there's some of that. But
yeah, I mean, the only exception to that type of thing I can think of is like the way the CW does their comic book heroes. You got Arrow and Flash and Supergirl, but all that stuff's connected to each other.
Sure, yeah.
So they need it on at the same time. But yeah, I think that whenever Wheel of Time does come out, let's say if it comes out in the spring, then Lord of the Rings will be in the fall or the winter. They won't be on at the same time.
Yeah, and that's good. And then from there, they're kind of this is why in setting these shows up, I think we hear about it, and then it's taking a year to 2 years to get it going, because then you want to go back and forth. You want to be able to land something in the spring, and then next spring I got to land it again because we know Lord of the Rings is going to land in the fall. Yeah, that kind of thing is exactly what they're orchestrating. You're probably right. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this, it's exciting just because we're in 2020 and we're thinking, okay, maybe late 2020, early 2021. That's not that far away. It's cool. We should be getting more news. There's a bunch of, cons and conventions and stuff where maybe we'll see some interviews and stuff, right? And they start to promote this and get people hyped and get people ready. So yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, hey, while we are here in the Village Council, we always post a poll just after each episode. And last time I just for fun had up here, and I don't think this is, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So who is better at talking with girls? I put that in here. Who is better at talking with girls? And I love that Lord Hunter, our good friend Lord Hunter, hopped on there and said, great question, great poll. Because they both go back and forth, and you've already kind of, now Matt has heard them start to kind of talk like, well, I wish Rand were here to kind of tell me how to navigate this, or he was always better at talking with girls and stuff like that, or whatever. It's just, they always kind of go back and forth, and it's never really resolved. So it's a nice little poll, but it looked like Perrin kind of came out on top there and was the winner. And then over on Twitter, you can follow us there at the Horn of Valir. Perrin also 55% to 44, 44.4, 55.6. Yeah, so Perrin came out on top there. So I guess there it is. It's settled. That's
what people think. Hey, I'm fine with that. Maybe it's because Perrin doesn't seem like he. Because Rand, the only girl we really see Rand talk with so far is Egwene, and it doesn't really kind of go so well. Yeah. Yeah. It's just interesting that they both kind of do that. That I wonder, they don't ever really, well, at least not yet, discuss it in depth. But they're always thinking, God, I wish so and so were here, because they know what to say in this moment, and
the other one's thinking the same thing. So anyway, just for fun. So yeah, we'll post another poll after this episode as well, and just have fun with that. Those are over on Patreon and on our Twitter. So, all right, man.
Okay.
Wow. So with that, here we go. I mean, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. Let the dragon be born again.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to read this whole thing here kind of from some of the discussion thread?
Yeah, I got some comments pulled up here. So we also always post a discussion thread over on Patreon if you're interested in that. It's free. Anybody can hop in there and make a comment. It's open to the public, so you guys can just have to create an account, go in there, and comment. This is fantastic. And actually, Heather Reed, I wanted to give her a shout out. Brought up an interesting point here about Nynaeve. We didn't spend as much time on her, and I think we're definitely going to in this episode. We have some thoughts for sure. But this is our part 2 discussion thread, and she said here, I noticed that you didn't talk much about Nynaeve's arrival and the discussion that transpired there. So remember, we're going back to last episode, those last chapters before we dive in to our new chapters here. There was a lot going on there between Nynaeve, Lan, and Nynaeve and Moraine that could be pointed out. When Nynaeve tells them that she followed their trail to Baerlon, Lan looked, quote, truly surprised for the first time that Rand could remember. When Lan compliments her, Nynaeve buries her face in her cups and blushes. When the boys walk into the room, Nynaeve and Moraine are staring at each other from opposite ends of the table. And, quote, despite the fire, the room seemed freezing cold, and all coming from the two women at the table. Great thought, and I that moment, there is a lot going on between those characters, and there's something that's developing between each of them, between Nynaeve and Moraine and Nynaeve and Lan. There's like this respect from Lan. He can't kind of believe that they were tracked, that she was able to, find them here. That's shocking to him. And then also, typically, when you're in the presence of an Aes Sedai, especially like one like Moraine, you're not acting and behaving the way that Nynaeve is. And I think it has less to do with their age and all that kind of stuff. It's more that it's the position she's been put in. Like Nynaeve is the wisdom, and she has a responsibility, and she feels this tug to look after these kids and to bring them back and to figure out what this Aes Sedai is up to, right? So
yes.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm
and
getting.
we see and we see that a little bit in the reading today, where Moraine. It's hard to tell with Moraine, if it's just kind of her personality or she is just that powerful, because sometimes it feels as if she's coming across as a know-it-all. But then sometimes it's like, well, maybe she does.
Yeah, yeah.
So
right.
it's kind of hard to tell to tell the difference so far. But so I think that because if you're Nynaeve, you have worked hard to get to where you're at, being the youngest wisdom, and these are my responsibilities, and she's clearly she's like that kind of overachiever, right? And not in a bad way. That's just who she is. She's the youngest wisdom. She wants to be respected and all of that, and so that it's almost like it's the only thing I can kind of think of is when you watch cop shows, and you have like the police are there and they're like there's like a murder or something, and they're like, okay, we got this handled, and then the FBI shows up and is like, all right, we're in charge here.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it feels like is the situation she's put into, right? Where it's like, oh well, I'm an Aes Sedai, okay, so
yeah,
I'm pulling rank.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you're right that she's always sort of had a little bit of an issue with some of the men maybe on the village council just accepting that she's so young. That was the big thing.
Exactly.
They always talked about her age and stuff. So from the get-go, I mean, she was chosen. This is her spot. She's meant to be in that role for good reason. So yeah, she has to deal with that, and I think it's also what it is too. They're opposites of each other, right? So Nynaeve and Moraine. I mean, Nynaeve is just full of anger and sort of like frustration and wants to know what's going on. Get them back right now. Let's go. She's a little, not too much, but she's intense, right? And Moraine is as well, but she's very calm. Every time that Nynaeve sort of like lashes out, she's very collected and just doesn't rise to, I guess, the energy level that Nynaeve is bringing to the table. So, and right now they are just in that as Heather pointed out here, just that stare, and it's cold. It's cold between the two of them, and yeah, they get into arguments and stuff. And you're right, we will see that more today. So we'll talk more about that. So thank you to Heather. Amanda also just pointed out this whole chapter probably could have been an episode, and it's true. Like a lot of times, we find that a whole chapter is jam-packed full of stuff. We were able in today's episode to there's a lot of walking and there's a lot of thinking and reflection that goes on with the characters as they travel. So those are the ones we're going to kind of, not skimp on, but we're going to kind of move through quickly.
And that will happen just time from time, because we're not doing a chapter by chapter reread.
Right. Yes.
But because we're doing a segment of chapters, there's going to be some stuff in that oh, we missed this or we did that. Well, it's just that there's just not to do a chapter by chapter. I think I did the math once, and it would, even like doing a chapter by chapter, since there's like 15 books, I think it was like 3 to 5 years, and you'd have to post. We'd have to do an episode every single day.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
It's just So
right. Oh boy. Okay. So moving on here, more discussion. Just a couple comments from Amanda and James Hunter talking about. I actually found some graphic novel artwork and stuff that I posted in the on that thread. So if you want to check that out, it looks pretty cool. Amanda was saying that she's going to have to reread this section and take notes. Let's see. Craig Wallace, shout out to him. I wish that I had some reading time available at the moment, as I want to start a complete reread. Don't worry, though, I'm not a dark friend, so no spoilers from me. I'm just enjoying hearing the excitement of all of it. Let's see. So we get to know a little bit about Craig. He does most of his podcast listening on his commute, right? Which is pretty cool. And that's really how I am as well. Like if you got like 45 minutes or 30 or an hour, that's where you get most of that done. So just some back and forth catching up with one another. Let's see. Heather, back to her again, talking about Moraine telling her telling of Manetheren, which we covered in the extended edition. She says here that was originally what hooked me to this book 20 years ago. I had to know what happened to these people after learning about their past. Loving your podcast. Thank you, Heather. But yeah, like when you hear a story within a story, I always think that's where it's at. That's where there are layers, and this person's got it together, really, like telling legends and tales and stuff. And so Moraine's authority on that, and her being kind of a mystery, and then revealed as this power figure, pulling rank, as you say, and then now here she is talking about Manetheren. Yeah, you start to get locked in. You start to say, okay, this is legit. What's going on here? So let's see. Amanda brought up something here at the end of chapter 17. She says, I have no idea how I didn't catch this. Here's the quote. You will take me to your camp, White Cloak. Moraine's voice came suddenly from every direction. This is chapter. Yeah, end of chapter. Okay. Moraine's voice came suddenly from every direction at once. She had moved back into the night at the children's approach, and shadows clumped around her. You will question me? Darkness wreathed her as she took a step forward. It made her seem taller. You will bar my way? Another step, and Rand gasped. She was taller, her head level with his, where he sat on his gray's back. Shadows clung about her face like thunderclouds. You dare attack me? Moraine's voice roared like a whirlwind. Shadows spun in on her, draped her like a hooded cloak. She loomed as high as the town wall. Her eyes glared down, a giant staring at insects. Go, Lan shouted. In one lightning move, he snatched the reins of Moraine's mare and leaped into his own saddle. Now, he commanded. His shoulders brushed either the gate as his stallion tore through the narrow opening like a flung stone. For a moment, Rand remained frozen, staring. Moraine's head and shoulders stood above the wall now. Watchmen and children alike cowered away from her, huddling with their backs against the front of the guardhouse. The Aes Sedai's face was lost in the night, but her eyes, as big as full moons, shone with impatience as well as anger when they touched him. Swallowing hard, he booted Cloud in the ribs and galloped after the others. 50 paces from the wall, Lan drew them up, and Rand looked back. Moraine's shadowed shape towered high over the log palisade. Head and shoulders, a deeper darkness against the night sky, surrounded by a silver nimbus from the hidden moon. As he watched, mouth hanging open, the Aes Sedai stepped over the wall. The gates began swinging shut frantically. As soon as her feet were on the ground outside, she was suddenly her normal size again. "You were taller than a giant," Egwene said breathlessly, shifting on Bella's back. No one else spoke, though Matt and Perrin edged their horses away from the Aes Sedai. "Was I?" Moraine said absently as she swung into her saddle. "I saw you," Egwene protested. "The mind plays tricks in the night. The eye sees what is not there." Yeah, interesting, right? Just her power, that how immense she is, and the look she gives to Rand and kind of moves him along, right? She seems to be the prod. She's just kind of keeping this group moving and helping keep them out of trouble. Craig goes on to say here that, I guess she doesn't lie, just avoids the truth. That's why you don't trust an Aes Sedai.
That is
come
correct.
on now, we're speaking truths there. No, yeah. So just a really cool thing. And a lot of times when I've been reading, right, you almost have to slow down and really focus in on some of these moments where there is channeling and where they are drawing upon the power, because he uses, again, to envision what's happening, you've got to really pay attention to the words and what he's saying, and the height that she was growing, and then she steps over that wall and stuff. And a lot of times, just in the fight sequences between two channelers, it's you really got to slow down and almost reread that to understand exactly what happened,
exactly what all was going on. Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, thanks to everybody for just the thoughts and participating in the discussion there. We got another email to read later on, but yeah, that's fantastic, I guess. And if there are things, again, that you catch or you want us to kind of go back and talk about in these upcoming chapters, feel free to leave a comment there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Well, now let's head on over to, I guess, kind of our main section here. I'm going to read the chapter summaries here. So today we're talking about chapters 18 through 26. Chapter 18, the group is forced into Shadar Logoth to take refuge from the Trollocs. Chapter 19, where we'll be spending quite a bit of time today, the boys go treasure hunting and encounter Mordith, Matt taking a dagger. Trollocs enter the city and they are forced to separate and flee. Chapter 20, the group separate. Rand, Matt, and Tom make it onto the Spray. Perrin across the river. 21, Nynaeve catches up with Moraine and Lan and learns that she can channel. She agrees to go with them to find the boys. 22, Perrin and Egwene walk through the woods. 23, Perrin and Egwene encounter Elias, who talks to wolves and says Perrin can do the same. 24, Rand, Matt, and Tom travel on a boat. 25, Perrin, Egwene, and Elias meet up with a band of Tuath. How do you say that again?
Tuathon.
Tuathon,
yeah.
And 26, they encounter a Murdral. Tom fights it so the boys can escape.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Tom.
Yeah, he's great.
He is. He really is. You talk about a man he's more than a Gleeman. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I thought, we always kind of pick about three big talking points here. And again, last time we did some world building, so we're going to do that again. We're going to talk a little bit about the Tinkers, a little bit about Shadar Logoth. Then we're going to do our hyper-focus point where we talk a little bit about Mordith today. And then in part 3, as soon as I can scroll past the extensive amount of notes we have, just some major plot points about some of the just kind of briefly some of the other things that go on, and probably a little bit more about Nynaeve and Egwene, or Nynaeve and Moraine, excuse me. So,
yeah.
Okay. So, in world building, I thought we'd talk a little bit about the Tinkers, because it's kind of an you know, we've met White Cloaks, we've met people from Edmonds Field. Now we've been introduced to the Aes Sedai, and you know, we got the villagers, Trollocs. We're always continuing to learn about kind of new people.
Yes.
As we progress. And so the Tinkers, I thought, kind of were interesting because they're a small kind of band group of people that are pacifists.
Yes. Yep. They call that the way of the leaf. And it's interesting that a lot of people are, well, they fix things. They're very helpful. This group of people who travel, and you can identify them by their bright colors, the reds and the blues and the yellows and the greens. That they wear, they really stand out, and they're always seeking the song, right? They're always seeking the song. They're always singing songs too, but they're seeking the song, and there is actually a huge, and this is something I guess I think about the history sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, it won't hurt, and thank you to somebody who did make a comment about like some of the stuff in the histories could be spoiler. And so I got to be careful too navigating that. But this is an important group of people who are attached to another important group of people that we've already heard about, and that we will encounter later on. But yeah, they're interesting, right? Because their way of life is different. They're very different from other, just small villages and stuff. And also their way of life. What's worrisome is that it's attractive to young people. It's this carefree way of living, and just I don't know, that they're always traveling, seeking the song, and they're kind. Anyone can come in among them, but Perrin kind of struggles with their beliefs a little bit, and it's tough for him to kind of accept.
And it seems it seems like there's some mixed feelings about them. Pulling here from, let me see exactly what chapter this is. Chapter 25, The Traveling People. It's kind of where Perrin is talking to them a little bit. He's like, Tinkers, Perrin exclaimed, I've always wanted to see them. They camp across the river from Tarn Ferry. Let me skip the page. And they don't come down as far. They don't come down into the two rivers as far as I know. And then Egwene sniffed, probably because the Tarn Ferry folk are as great of thieves as the Tinkers. There's no doubt they'd end up stealing each other blind. And then they go back and forth about it a little bit. The Tinkers make me sick sometimes, but they don't steal any more than most folk. A good bit less than some I know. It'll be getting dark soon, Elias. Perrin said, we have to camp somewhere. Why not with them if they'll have us? Mistress Luhan had a tinker mended pot that she claimed was better than new. Master Luhan was not too happy about his wife's praise of the tinker work, but Perrin wanted to see how it was done. So there's a little back and forth there about, some people they make good stuff, but maybe it's just because of their lifestyle. Older kind of people may not. They basically they're like, they think they're hippies, right? It's kind of the easiest way to say it,
right. Right. Yeah. It's you don't really know what to think. They're kind of they don't really fit in that. I guess even if you're from the Two Rivers and you're from Emmonsfield and you think about the folks in Tarn Ferry, and you think of folks in Bear Lawn and Watch Hill and stuff, Devon Rye, you're kind of like, those folks maybe seem a little strange to you, but these folk really seem strange because they travel all over the place and they just bring a complete different way of life. So it's kind of weird to think that, but there's that different level of like, whoa, that's extremely out there. But yeah, they are known at least for their repairs and their ability to kind of do like they stand behind their work. Well, I guess, I mean, they're gone by the time it's done, but whatever. Like they're good at what they do. And
they live the way of the leaf, right?
Yeah.
The leaf lives its appointed time and does not struggle against the wind that carries it away. The leaf does no harm and finally falls to nourish new leaves. So it should be with all men and women. Egwene stared back at him and asks, but what does that mean? It says, it means that no man should harm another for any reason whatsoever. The seeker's eyes flickered to Elias. There is no excuse for violence, none, not ever. And even what if somebody attacks you? Perrin asks, what if somebody hits you or tries to rob you or kill you? If a man hit me, I would ask him why he wanted to do such a thing. If he still wanted to hit me, I would run away, as I would if he wanted to rob or kill me. Much better that I let him take what he wanted, even my life, than that I should do violence. And I would hope that he was not harmed too greatly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that doesn't it's tough because they're on the run here. I mean, they've kind of fought Trollocs. They've been attacked, and their friends and family have been in danger. They left because they were trying to save their village. That's the main thing that I think they realized that, well, we need to go with Moraine just because we don't want our families to be attacked and killed and what have you. So they're in the fight. Whether they've actually killed or not, yeah, right. I mean, that will come to each of them in turn. But this is going to be in Perrin's mind. These group of people who live this way of life, and it's just tough because they're also they're a good group of people, and you want to protect these people. You don't want these people to suffer and stuff, but they believe that is the way, right? That the wind's going to blow, and that when the leaf falls, it falls. So
yeah, and they have this line just a little bit later after that. This is all from chapter 25. You could cut down a tree with your axe. The axe does violence to the tree and escapes unharmed. Is that how you see it? Wood is soft compared to steel, but the sharp steel is dulled as it chops, and the sap of the tree will rust and pit it. The mighty axe does violence to the helpless tree, and it is harmed by it. So is the same with men, though the harm is in the spirit.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, that's the idea that when we fight back, or we sort of we counter violence with violence, if you will, that we are hurting ourselves in some way, that a part of us is being stolen or dulled or whatever, and that the spirit's being affected. So interesting, really interesting, makes you think. So yes. we will encounter. You can imagine the traveling people are people who will kind of wander in and out of our story, and we'll definitely encounter them more. But yeah. Okay.
And so then the other thing in kind of our world building section we wanted to talk a little bit about is Shadar Logoth.
Yeah,
which seems like a really dark,
bad place.
Is the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah, like during and when Moraine was talking about Manetheren and the 10 nations and stuff, it's sort of the shadow when it came to this place, which was once Ardhall. It was a good city. It was a place that stood against the shadow, but a different type of evil, different from we've been talking about Myrddraal, Myrddraal, Drakkar, Trollocs. Dark Friends, the Dark One, all that stuff we've been talking about. We've got stuff going on in our dreams. They make a real clear distinction that this is different. This is a different type of darkness. And you're sort of like, wait, what? And I think that's what caused you maybe to kind of slow down and say, well, that's now hold on. This is not just another guy that they're lumped. Actually, the Trollocs were afraid to enter this city.
Yeah, and when they're running away from the Trollocs, that's kind of the discussion they're having. Right, where it said, well, there's one place the Trollocs won't go, and Moraine says no, I don't want to go there, but they do end up going there. What name, Matt asked again. Moraine answered as they rode into the city. Shadar Logoth, she said. It was called Shadar Logoth, and immediately upon getting there, this kind of will take us into our kind of focused point today, talking about Mordith. Wow, I mean, it's total different kind of place than we have been before.
Yeah, it is, and it looks different. It looks ancient. First of all, they say that the reference is that it is 10 times the size of Baerlon, which they thought was huge when they entered that town. This place, Ardhall, Shadar Logoth, it's 10 times as big. It's massive, and they kind of can't believe it, right? and it's like a lost city in this forest. You would think that, and there's stuff in this city. There's a lot of stuff in here, but nobody comes in to get it, right? There's no one coming in to try and I mean, there's not like a large group of people or like a band of people who have come in. It seems untouched essentially. It's there's destruction. You can tell that there's something. It's been touched by war and things, but it's not like it hasn't been reclaimed. It hasn't been repurposed. Nothing. So that's strange.
Yeah,
that's definitely strange.
Yeah. Here we'll jump into a little bit of our Morda thing here, because the beginning of that chapter, chapter 19, talks a lot about the way the city looks. Broken paving stones crunched under the horses' hooves as land led the way into the city. The entire city was broken. What Rand could see of it, and as abandoned as Perrin had said, not so much as a pigeon moved, and weeds, mainly old and dead, sprouted from cracks in the walls as well as pavement. More buildings had roofs fallen in than had them whole. Tumbled walls spilled fans of bricks and stone into the streets. Towers stopped, abrupt and jagged like broken sticks. Uneven rubble hills with a few stunted trees growing on their slopes could have been the remains of palaces or entire blocks of the city. Yeah, so
right.
Really just think of it's almost a ghost. Feels like a ghost capital. I mean, it's not even like a ghost town. It's like a ghost capital.
Yeah, right, because they talk about like almost like the palace, like that it seems rich. It seemed like it was a rich city. You've got like pale marble palaces, topped with huge domes. They see these domes and these palace-like buildings everywhere that they looked. Every building appeared to have at least one dome. Some had 4 or 5, and each one shaped differently, so it's intricate. This is fascinating. And again, I think it's I don't know who's thinking this here, and I thought Baerlon was a city. Burn me, but Tom must have been laughing up his sleeve. Like Tom must have been laughing at these country folk when they were shocked at like walking into Baerlon, because this is closer to a city. This is it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they kind of decide here. And I don't know how much you want to, because I guess I see the point that you have here, but they bring the horses inside and they dismount. They get ready to kind of, this is where they're going to camp out. They're going to settle down here for a little bit. They know the Trollocs won't really come into this city, and none of them feel truly comfortable with this place.
No.
Let's see here. Nynaeve is still having it out essentially with Moraine, asking her question after question, questioning everything that she's doing. She wants to know, and there's stuff that Moraine is just not saying. I almost wonder too if Nynaeve wasn't here, if she would have said more, and if that wouldn't have sort of like stopped this whole freaking situation here with the dagger, because they mess up. I mean, even though they're kind of told, right, and I don't know. It just it's real unfortunate that they come across Mordeth, right?
Yeah,
big time.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll just kind of start here. So Matt, well, also I want to one quick thing here in the last chapter when they're getting attacked. Matt says some words, right? Kind of has like a war chant as they're getting out, and Matt.
Oh yeah.
And right here, this is right before the Mordeth thing. Matt Scout. I was thinking about what happened back there, about the words everybody turns to look at him, not just Rand, and he shifted uneasy. Well, you heard what Moraine said. It's as if some dead man was speaking with my mouth, and I don't like it. Because this comes up again later, and maybe we can talk a little about that maybe in our extended edition as well. But that's kind of it's something that happens over this segment that we've been reading.
Well, and actually, just a little tie-in here for people who have listened or who have read the entire series. That's actually really important that was Matt, right? That said that, yeah. Because there's the idea that these individuals may be reborn again. They talk about that for a little bit, and Tom is sort of like, don't speak of that. The dead coming back again is a serious thing, right? Like let's not go there. And Matt doesn't seem to like that. And I'll just say, like, he that continues to be developed throughout the series in a subtle way. Just that Matt's his own man. He's his own guy, and he is who he is, if you will. So I guess I'll just say that, like, it's
Okay,
he's very interesting and different, and each of the three, you know, are three sort of our three main, you know, boys who are from the Two Rivers who were attacked, of the same age. Moraine's looking for the, you know, who is the Dark One after? Why are we after this person? Like, each of those three is going to kind of develop in a different way and be very different from each other, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And this is one of those moments where Matt starts to make this distinction between him and the other two. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Okay. So just a little bit after that is when the three boys are kind of, you know, looking around a little bit. There could be treasure, Matt maintained stoutly. Anyway, I want to climb one of the towers. Look at that one over there. It's whole. I bet you could see for miles up there. What do you say? The towers are not safe, said a man's voice behind them. Rand leaped to his feet and spun around, clutching his sword hilt, and the others were just as quick. A man stood in the shadows among the column at the top of the stairs. He took a half step forward, raised his hand to shield his eyes, and stepped back again. Forgive me, he said smoothly. I have been quite a long time in the dark inside. My eyes are not yet used to the light. Who are you? Rand thought the man's accent sounded odd, even after Baerlon. Some words he pronounced strangely, so Rand could barely understand them. What are you doing here? We thought the city was empty. I am Mordith. He paused, as if expecting them to recognize the name. When none of them gave any sign of doing so, he muttered something under his breath and went on. I could ask the same questions of you. There has been no one in Arendal for a long time. A long, long time. I would not have thought that to find three young men wandering its streets. We were on our way to Caemlyn, Rand said. We stopped to take shelter for the night. Caemlyn, Morda said slowly, rolling the name around his tongue, then shook his head. Shelter for the night, you say? Perhaps you will join me. You still haven't said what you're doing here, Perrin said. Why, I am a treasure hunter, of course. Have you found any? Matt demanded excitedly. Rand thought Morda smiled, but in the shadows he could not be sure. I have, the man said. More than I expected. Much more. More than I could carry away. I never expected to find three strong, healthy young men. If you will help me move what I can take to where my horses are, you may each have a share of the rest. As much as you can carry. Whatever I leave will be gone, carried off by some other treasure hunter before I can return for it. So then, you know, they kind of decide that they're gonna go with him.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's intriguing, right?
Like exactly.
Sure, weird guy walking out of a random building in a scary city, from the shadows, speaking in a weird sort of dialect. I mean, yeah, we'll go with you. No big deal. These guys, strength in number, right? They're good.
Yeah, absolutely. So, come, Morda said. I will show you where I will show you the treasure. He slipped inside, and Matt followed. There was nothing for the others to do but go on. The hall inside was shadowy, but almost immediately Morda turned aside and took some narrow steps that wound around and down through deeper and deeper dark until they fumbled their way into pitch blackness. Rand felt along the wall with one hand, unsure where there would be a step below until his foot met it. Even Matt began to feel uneasy, judging by his voice when he said, "It's awfully dark down here." Yes, Mordith replied. This seemed to be having no trouble with the dark. There are lights below. Come. Indeed, the winding stairs abruptly gave way to a corridor dimly lit by scattered smoky torches set in the iron sconces on the wall. The flickering flames and shadows gave Rand his first good look at Mordith, who hurried on without pausing, motioning them to follow. There was something odd about him, Rand thought, but he could not pick out what it was exactly. Mordith was a sleek, somewhat overfed man with drooping eyelids that made him seem to be hiding behind something and staring. Short and completely bald, he walked as if he were taller than any of them. His clothes were certainly nothing like what Rand had ever seen before, tight black breeches and soft red boots with the top turned down at his ankles, a long red vest thickly embroidered in gold, and a snowy white shirt with wide sleeves, the points of his cuffs hanging almost to his knees. Certainly not the kind of clothes in which to hunt throughout a ruined city in search of treasure, but it was not what made him seem strange either. Yeah, it's so here we have this kind of new character we're introduced here who says his name as if everyone's supposed to know who he is. He doesn't seem like he certainly doesn't dress like he's a treasure hunter, and he is very intrigued to find 3 young boys.
Oh yeah. He's stoked. He's very happy. He is happy that they are here, man. Let me tell you. He is so happy.
Yeah, so they end up going a little bit further. He kind of shows them some stuff. Perrin pulled an axe free, carelessly tossing back the gold chains that had been tangled around it. Jewels glittered among its shiny black handle, and delicate gold scroll work covered the twin blades. Tomorrow, then, he said, hefting the axe with a grin, Moraine and Lan will understand when we show them this. You're not alone, Mortis said. He had let them rush past into the treasure room, but he followed. Who else is with you? Matt, wrist deep in the riches before him, answered absently. Moraine and Lan. And then there's Nynaeve and Egwene. And Tom. Yeah. He's a gleeman. We're going to Tar Valon. And, like right there, it's like, isn't the whole purpose that we're supposed to be very secretive about everything? And here's Matt just in a room full of treasure. Oh yeah. It's like, right. It's like, no big deal. Like,
no problem. Yeah.
Rand caught his breath. Then the silence from Mortis made him look at the man. Rage twisted Mortis' face, and fear too. His lips pulled back from his teeth. Tar Valon, he shook, clenched fist at them. Tar Valon, you said you were going to this Camelin. You lied to me. If you still want, Perrin said to Mordeth, we'll come back tomorrow and help you. Carefully, he set the axe back on the hep of gem-encrusted chalices and jewelry. If you want. No, that is panting. Mordeth shook his head as if he could not decide. Take what you want, except. Suddenly, Rand realized what had been nagging at him about the man. The scattered torches in the hallway had given each of them a ring of shadows, just as the torches in the treasure room did. Only he was so shocked to have said it out loud. You don't have a shadow. A goblet fell from Matt's hand with a crash. Mordeth nodded, and for the first time, his fleshy eyelids opened all the way. His sleek face suddenly appeared pinched and hungry. So, he stood straighter, seeming taller. It is decided. Abruptly, there was no seeming to it. Like a balloon, Mortis swelled, distorted, head pressed against the ceiling, shoulders butting the wall, filling the end of the room, cutting off escape. Hollow-cheeked, teeth bared in a snarl, he reached out with his hands big enough to engulf a man's head. With a yell, Rand leaped back, his feet tangled in a gold chain, and as he crashed to the floor, the wind knocked out of him. Struggling for breath, he struggled at the same time for his sword, fighting his cloak, which had become wrapped around the hilt. The yells of his friends filled the room, and the clash of the gold platters of goblets clattering across the floor. Suddenly, an agonizing scream shivered in Rand's ears. Almost sobbing, he managed to inhale at last, just as he got the sword out of its sheath. Cautiously, he got to his feet, wondering which of his friends had given that scream. Perrin looked back at him, wide-eyed from across the room, crouched and holding an axe as if about to chop down a tree. Matt peered around the side of the treasure pile, clutching a dagger snatched from the trove.
Yep.
I mean, if you need something right then and there, but
Sure.
something moved in the deepest part of the shadows left by the torches, and then they all jumped. It was Mordeth, clutching his knees to his chest, and hurtled as deep into the furthest corner as he could get. He tricked us, Matt panted. It was some kind of trick. Mordeth threw back his head and wailed. Dust sifted down the halls and trembled. You're all dead, he cried, all dead. And he leaped up, diving across the room. Rand's jaw dropped as he almost dropped the sword as well. As Mordeth dove through the air, he stretched out and thinned like a tendril of smoke. As thin as A finger he stuck in a crack in the wall tiles and vanished into it. A last cry hung in the room as he vanished, fading slowly away, and after he was gone, "You're all dead. Let's get out of here," Perrin says. But then Matt, "But the treasure, we can't just leave it."
Right, yeah, right.
And,
Come on, fellas.
it's like, yeah. Rand kind of arguing with Matt. Do you want him to come after us? Or are you going to wait here, stuffing your pockets until he comes back with more of him like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So clearly, some sort of magic property to Mordith. Clearly does not seem like the kind of person that we want to take anything from, or have literally anything to do with. And Matt, we see him take that dagger, but then later we find out that he still has it.
Yeah, we do. And like you said, I mean, he's in the moment there and just trying to grab something that, one, is a piece of treasure, and two, I should say one.
He needed it at the time. Yeah,
it's a dagger. He can
you can use it as a weapon.
Right. And then two, it is part of the treasure, which is unfortunate, really, because you're not supposed to take anything. Definitely not supposed to take anything, and you're definitely not supposed to take it out of the city.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a big no-no. So, and it's again, we're learning about the difference between these characters, and Matt is a little like, he's the one who's always sort of like
a little more
back at the Two Rivers. Yeah, adventurous, like mischievous. Like, guys, let's go. He's always pushing. Let's get after. Like, he doesn't really think of he'll deal with the consequences later. But right now, like, it's fun. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's get after it. He's the prankster. He's the trickster. He's whatever. But yeah, in this moment, he was a treasure hunter. He wanted some treasure, and he thought of like, it reminds me of like I don't know, anybody who were to stumble across a treasure and there's a curse to it or whatever. It's like there's such a pull there because most of us don't have that type of wealth and riches, and it's just sitting here, and there's one guy here, and this is an abandoned city that nobody comes to. Like, let's go. And this is where I wish, like, Moiraine, she's got a lot going on, a lot to think about, and she's trying to just keep them alive. And these two river folk are very stubborn, and that's something that she knows, but I think almost underestimates a little bit because they should just fall in line with her, and whatever she says, they should just do without question. Like, right? Like any other person from any other village would just, when Moiraine says to stay here or don't do this or don't do that, you do it. Like, she's an Aes Sedai, not messing around with that. Here we go. But these three do, and they don't want to be kind of jerked around by an Aes Sedai at all. And actually, Tom Maryland the whole time is really kind of coaching them up here too, like sending that message their way too. Which is wild because we're also, us the reader are thinking, well, she's not that bad. I mean, she seems to be helping folks. So it's just one of those moments where I wish like they would have had a little bit more information going in here, or that even Matt later on, because she's about to, right? They fight, they kind of fend him off or fight him off, and they're able to get out, right? And get back to Moiraine. Although it seems, were you going to talk to me about the city and as they walk through it or anything?
No, where I was going to go next. So if you want to hit that, you can. What I was gonna talk to a little bit about is just when they get back and then they're talking with Moiraine, and then later when Matt shows that he has the daggers. But if you want to hit up some of that, as they're walking back, they describe the city a little bit more.
Yeah, they do. They describe the shadows and just how sort of like at night it's really not a good place. Like, as those shadows get longer, it's almost like the area in which the evil in this place can move extends because the shadows and the darkness is growing. And Mordith is a very interesting character. There's a lot of theories, different things. Brandon Sanderson has even weighed in on what he was told by, or what Robert Jordan had passed on about Mordith and where he has been, who he is, who he's visited, all those different things. So we will at some point in time during a spoiler session discuss that. He's fascinating. And right now, like, even the way in which he disappears and sort of like almost becomes like this smoky sort of like wisp and kind of as if he bends in on himself and shoots into the shadow is very similar to another creature that later on we're going to meet. So we really just don't know. There's a little bit of mystery surrounding this character, and I like that. I even like that that not everything is completely tied up, and we don't have a real definitive answer on the difference between him and other shadow spawn. So yeah, no, that's good. Let's hop into Moraine and well, we're back with Egwene and Nynaeve and Lan.
Exactly. Yeah. So they get back, and I just started back here again. This is still chapter 19. You wool-headed witlings, the wisdom snap. Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah.
She bristled from head to foot. Her eyes glittered, and bright spots of red burned on her cheeks. Why, under the light, did you run off like that? Are you all right? Have you no sense at all? Lan is out looking for you now, and you'll be luckier than you deserve if he does not pound some sense into the lot of you when he gets back. The Aes Sedai's face betrayed no agitation at all, but her hands had a loose, white-knuckled grip on her dress at the sight of them. Whatever Nynaeve had given her must have helped, for she was on her feet. You should not have done what you did, she said in a voice as clear and serene as a waterwood pond. We will speak of it later. Something happened out there, or you would not be falling all over at one another like this. Tell me. You said it was safe, Matt complained, scrambling to his seat. He's like, oh, my God. You said,
I can really see that, right? He comes in like,
Exactly.
were you kidding me? You know, I thought this place was okay. What are we doing here, Moraine? What are we doing here?
Yeah. So she steps forward to cut Matt off, right? And they get him talking a little bit there. She's like, Trollocs, did you see Trollocs inside the walls? Rand swallowed. Not Trollocs, he said, and all three began talking excitingly all at the same time. Everyone begins in a different place. You've got Matt talking about the treasure, parents explaining, why they went off in the first place. Rand jumps right to what he thinks is important. And then, they're all just talking. And then you see Tom. And then Tom is back there. He gets he starts to get a pipe out, like okay, it's like this might take a second. Moraine's eyes showed concern, but not an undue amount until suddenly the Aes Sedai hissed and grabbed Rand's elbow in a tight grip. Mordeth, are you sure of that name? Be very sure, all of you. They all say yes, and the Aes Sedai is taken back immediately. Did he touch you? Did he give you anything? Did you take anything from him? I must know. No, Rand said. None of us. None of those things. Perrin nodded in agreement. All he tried to do was kill us. Isn't that enough? He swelled up until he filled half the room. He moved his hand to demonstrate, like smoke. Egwene gave a squeak. Matt twisted away. Safe, you said. All that talk about Trollocs not coming here. What were we supposed to think? And of course, Matt doesn't say, "Oh well, I got this dagger."
No,
yeah, exactly. And then Nynaeve says that it was Matt's doing. Like clearly, this is all Matt's idea.
For sure. Yeah. He's got a history. He's got a record. So,
yeah, and so then, basically, she says, obviously you guys should not have done any of this. That's very bad. And then this is when she starts to go into quite some detail about Shadar Logoth and a little bit about Mordeth, right?
Yes.
Egwene asks, I thought you said the city was once called Aradal. Is that how you? I hope that I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah. Like I always think of like Arad Hall.
Yeah.
Like almost like it's like a hall. Think of it like a plate. Yeah.
Right.
Arad Hall.
Yeah. Moraine says that it was and was one of the 10 nations, the land that made the second covenant, the lands that stood against the Dark One from the first days after the breaking of the world. In the days when Thorin Alban was king of Manetheren, the king of Aradal was Balwin Balwin Ironhand. It was the twilight of despair during the Trolloc Wars when it seemed the father of lies must surely conquer the man called Mordeth, who came to Balwin's court. The same man, Rand exclaimed. And Matt said it couldn't be. A glance from Moraine silenced them. That's big. That's what I have. Is like, it's crazy highlighted right there. Stillness filled the room except for the Aes Sedai's voice. Before Mordeth had been long in the city, he had Balwin's ear, and soon he was the second only to the king. Mordeth whispered poison in Balwin's ear, and Aradal began to change. It drew in on itself, hardened. It was said that some would rather see Trollocs come in than the men. The victory of the light is all. That was the battle cry Mordeth gave them, and the men shouted it while the deeds abandoned the light. The story is too long to tell in full and too grim, but only fragments are known, even in Tar Valon. Yeah. So, clearly there's something's going on with Mordeth.
Yeah, he gets into again. This is you think of the story of Manetheren that we talked about last week, and in the extended edition, it's like this. They were allies. This was a nearby kingdom, if you will, a city, and they. This man enters their city. I don't know anything about him beforehand, but he whispers poison, and he really turns them on themselves. All the while, it seems like they're fighting for the light, but truly they're just destroying themselves. It actually makes me think of Theoden and Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Oh, really? Yeah. It doesn't it though, right? I mean, it seems so similar to that.
Very similar.
Yeah, just that these unfortunately, there was no Gandalf the White to come cast Wormtongue out or cast Mordeth out, and so the city is actually consumed and done in. I think where you were reading there, if you keep going, there was a little bit more about even like the Trollocs like not wanting to enter the city, which we've already kind of said here currently, but there's the people who were there and who were killed, they almost end up becoming the fog, the Mashadar that we kind of see later on. That fog, that evilness or whatever it is sort of the aftermath of what happened to those people and who either killed themselves or turned on each other, the treachery. They died out, and that's sort of he takes over this place.
And then it just becomes more and more desolate, and then it says men spoke of Ardal no more, so they named it Shadar Logoth, the place where shadow waits, or more simply, shadows waiting.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. And then also there's some back and forth on whether like this fog, right, that he wasn't consumed by it, he wasn't snared by it. He waited within these walls through the long centuries. Others have seen him. Some he has influenced through gifts that twist the mind and taint the spirit, the taint waxing and waning until it rules or kills. If ever he convinces someone to accompany him to the walls, to the boundary of Mashadar's power, he will be able to consume the soul of that person. Mordeth will leave wearing the body of the one who, wearing the body of the one he worse than killed to wreak his evil on the world again. So it's almost like he's bound here, and he is hoping to have someone either carry something, or he's trying to trick somebody into carrying something to the boundary. Remember, he wanted them to take the treasure just to the edge, just beyond the influence of Mashadar, which I don't know whether he actually, and maybe someone who's been reading for a while, I would love for someone to send me an email about this. Like, did he create it? See, I even have questions on that. Like, is it the aftermath of the evil that he was sowing in Aradhal, or is it something else? Like what is Mashadar, and what is it in relationship to him? Because he seems to need to get beyond the border of it to consume someone else's soul, to sort of, whatever it is, some conversion that has to take place, and then he's going to wear their body out of that city and possess them. I think of it as like possession, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's up to something, and that's why he was very happy to see these three. He had an opportunity to do that, and when Rand notices that he has no shadow, it's almost like he himself is a shadow, perhaps, or he's, I don't know. It's different, but yeah. Moraine then kind of talks about how they are, that she has warded the place, right? She's warded against him. So she herself did kind of know that maybe there was potential for this.
Yeah, he can't cross over the ward line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's like, good golly, could we not have known about this guy before? I just keep saying that, but
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that
she didn't want to freak him out.
Yeah, or maybe she didn't think they'd run into him, or maybe she didn't.
And she wasn't able to be here long.
Right.
Kind of an in, stay for the night, and then you're out the next day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Huh.
Okay, so then I just want to skip ahead just a little. Well, it is quite a bit here, actually.
Sure, that's fine.
Chapter 24, and this is just when they're on the ship, and this is when Rand discovers that Matt has that dagger.
Yeah.
So he says, so swinging his leg up, he hooked one knee over the thick line that ran from the mast to the bow, then caught it with the crook of his elbow and let go with his hands. Slowly, then with increasing speed, he slid down just short of the bow. He dropped on his feet to the deck right in the front of Matt, took one step to catch his balance, and turned to face the boat with arms spread wide, the way Tom did after a tumbling trick. Scattered clapping rose from the crew, but as he was looking down at Matt in surprise, it was what Matt held, hidden from everyone else on his body, a curved dagger with a gold scabbard worked in with strange symbols. Fine gold wire wrapped the hilt, which was capped by a ruby as big as Rand's thumbnail. And the quillions were gold-scaled serpents bearing their fangs. Matt continued to slide the dagger in and out of its sheath for a moment, still playing with the dagger. He raised his head slowly. His eyes had a faraway look. Suddenly, they focused on Rand, and he gave a start and stuffed the dagger under his coat. Where did you get that? Matt said nothing, looking quickly to see if anybody else was close by. They were alone. For a wonder, you didn't take it from Shadar Logoth, did you? Matt stared at him. It's your fault. Yours and parents. The two of you pulled me away from the treasure, and I had it in my hand. Morleth didn't give it to me. I took it from him. So Moiraine's warning about his gifts don't count. I don't think that's what she meant by counting or not counting. So you won't tell anybody, Rand. They might try and steal it. So I won't tell anybody. I think Captain Doman is honest, but I wouldn't put it past the rest of them. He says not anybody, and then he talks a little bit about maybe we can sell it, right, and then we can travel. Yeah. We'll be able to travel. Like kings, and so, but yeah, clearly, as soon as I hit that this in the chapter, I was like, "Oh my god!"
Right? Yeah,
because we just saw that he had the dagger, but we didn't know until now that he kept it. And I was just like, I texted you immediately, and I was just like, obviously, you know how we do my predictions? Yeah. Obviously, this is a really, really, really bad idea. I don't know. I don't know if it gives Mordeth or somebody some sort of like tracking ability. Although possibly that's kind of where I'm at with it right now. Just because you think about the coins that Moiraine has, just like I can kind of track them.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I'm at on it right now, is maybe that gives Mordeth or Dark Friends or whatever Dark Fiends the ability to kind of track them,
right? Because that dagger, that treasure was sort of tainted, and it's sort of
right.
It's got an evil presence or energy of its own. Maybe that's something that they could hone in on, and it is shocking that they are. It almost does feel like they are being tracked, and that they're not able to really evade or get away from air quote the shadow. And we at this point in time, we don't know about Mordeth yet, but we do know that they're struggling to get away from these Murdral and from these Trollocs. And it's like, how do they know where we're going? Even when we split up, like they seem to still be on our tail. So yeah, that was good. Yeah, that is sort of shocking, Matt. Not a good idea to have that dagger. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. So I definitely think the dagger will be pretty. It's going to lead to something pretty big. I don't know what, but that's where I'm at right now. Is I think that's going to be a certainly a piece moving forward, and certainly an awful idea.
Yep, for sure. Well, and actually, so while we're there, I mean, we plan on covering some of Perrin and Egwene in their walk through the woods and their encounter with Elias, who just briefly on Elias here in the main show, like is an individual, because really they get past. So we're now kind of into our plot points and kind of going back over what really happened in these chapters and just discussing it a little bit. Once they get past Mashadar, they are split up. I mean, Moraine talks about like she could use the one power to maybe attack the fog and to try to drive it back, but she says like all of the power in the White Tower could not really destroy it. Like it would take so much. It's just it's something that, so even though she could, because they get split up because of this, right? And they're trying to stay together. And Rand sort of looking at Egwene going like, well, I got to go this way. And then she's going to go, her and Perrin end up kind of getting split, and then they find each other. Moraine and Lan and Nynaeve end up kind of together. So you get those different groups. They end up kind of, she tells them to sort of, to head this direction and to meet down at the river. And they'll kind of, meet there or whatever. And so really what happens is, Rand and Matt and Tom end up finding a boat, and they're able to get on and make their way down the river, whereas Perrin and Egwene have to cross it. They kind of swim across, and then they set up camp, and then they start walking in a direction that they think is like they're headed to Camelin, but they're not. Like they're going in the wrong direction, sort of. Moraine and Lan, it's like they have to kind of decide which way to go, right? Like do you follow the boys, or do you do you follow? And she doesn't know who's who. She's kind of tracking them through coins,
right? And she says, "Well, I know where." They get to the point where we know that they were here a little bit ago, and they may be relatively close, but I don't know which direction to go. And they're having that conversation with Nynaeve where she's saying, well, shouldn't we go after them? And then Moraine is saying, well, do we go north? Do we go south? Do we go east? Do we go west? At least I know where one of them is. That's where I got to go.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and actually at first, so more on Nynaeve, we thought we'd focus more on her this episode because we didn't last episode. She is now listening in on like Moraine and Lan's conversation quite a bit around the fire when they move off. She's able to kind of sneak up, and she gets the satisfaction of like eavesdropping on them a little bit, which is cool. And Moraine, though, she's able to sense something about Nynaeve, and this is where she starts to so Moraine tells Nynaeve that she has the ability to wield the one power, right? It's Nynaeve. This is sort of blows her away. She thinks, no, I'm not like you. She doesn't want to be an Aes Sedai. She's mad at Moraine for putting them, getting them in this spot. She doesn't quite understand everything. And then she just sort of talks about like they start to reflect on her being a wisdom, and like, why is it that you think you were selected at such a young age and that you can do these different things? And it was true that, Nynaeve even had to admit in her own self that, is it Mistress Baran, taught her well is what she thinks, but then there's more to it. She can heal people in a way that like, it's just, there's something, she can listen to the winds, right? She's informed in a way that other wisdoms really aren't, that some of them were almost like pretending they could listen, or they were, but they didn't have the power. Let's just be honest. This is not like we learn that there are these kind of like wilders, these these women who could, who are sensitive to the power, and they kind of go through they do channel it. And they're not guided. They have because earlier we saw Moraine guiding Egwene through her first experience, through her first channeling experience, and she helped her through that. There was no one there for Nynaeve, and that's really what Moraine is sensing and realizing. And she even makes a connection here, and this is, again, back to Heather Reed's point, that Moraine finds it interesting that Nynaeve was able to track them so well to the Stag and Lion in Baerlon. And it's because the Nynaeve at a very years ago had healed Egwene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and because of that healing, she had a bond.
Right here. A lot of this is chapter 21. Listen to the wind. It's where they're having that conversation. She says, but I can tell you how it began. Perhaps as much as 8 or 10 years ago, the age varies, but always comes young. There was something you wanted more than anything else in the world, something you needed, and you got it. Like a branch suddenly falling where you could pull yourself out from a pond instead of drowning, a friend, a pet, getting well when everyone thought they would die. You felt nothing special at the time, but a week or 10 days later, and you had your first reaction to touching the true source. Perhaps fevers and chills that came on suddenly and put you to bed, then disappeared after only a few hours. None of the reactions, and they vary, last more than a few hours. Headaches and numbness, the exhilaration all mixed together, and you taking foolish chances or acting giddy. A spell of dizziness. She's going on all of these kind of things, and then she goes back. She says, "You use the power to heal either Perrin or Egwene at some time. An affinity develops, and you can sense their presence. You can sense the presence of somebody that you've healed. In Baerlon, you came straight to the Stag and the Lion, though it was not the nearest inn to any gate by which you could have entered. Of the people from Edmund's Field, only Perrin and Egwene were at the inn when you arrived. Was it Perrin or Egwene or both?" And she says, "Egwene."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and let's see here. So yeah, like going on, Moraine kind of tells her that she's lucky. She's very lucky that that most women, when that fever or that flu kind of sets in on them, they don't survive. And so she's lucky that she did, and she's learned some type of crude control over it. But there's much more to learn, and she can be taught. And she's starting to think, like, this is awful. I mean, she's realizing that maybe she had this thought in the back of her mind that she had some power, that she had whatever, but now connecting it to what the Aes Sedai can do and channeling is a little scary for her, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because well, Edmund's Field is also kind of safe, right? And so you're a big fish in a small pond, and out here you're a tiny fish, right? And so then you see somebody like Moraine, who's far more powerful, and so it begins to kind of put things in perspective a little bit.
Yeah. And so she does admit that she had the fever and the chills and things that wouldn't kill anybody, but she says they stopped after a few months. What about that? Moraine says those were only reactions. Each time the reaction comes closer to the actual touching of the source until the two happen almost together. After that, there are no more reactions that can be seen. But it is as if a clock has begun ticking. A year, 2 years. I know one woman who had lasted 5 years. Of 4 who have the inborn ability that you and Egwene have, 3 died if you do not find them and train them. It is not as horrible a death as the men die, but neither is pretty, if any death can be called so. Convulsions, screaming, it takes days. And once it begins, there is nothing that can be done to stop it. Not by all the Aes Sedai and Tar Valon together. You're lying. All those questions you asked in Emond's Field, you found out about Egwene's fever breaking, about my fever chills, all of it. You made all of it up. You know I did not, Moraine said gently. And so she's trying to show her that, like, in time, if you don't learn to control this and you continue to kind of channel in this crude form or whatever, it could cost you your life. You could die. So that's big. That's a big deal, and this is a lot for Nynaeve to kind of take in, because the group had just gotten used to Egwene saying things like, right before Nynaeve had showed up, really, Egwene was learning from Moraine and learning to channel, and we see her kind of create a light and stuff, a flickering, if you will. But yeah, right. And then really to kind of wrap up that chapter, I mean, Moraine just sort of talks about how the Dark One wants these boys. She starts to explain more about that she knows that the Dark One's after them, maybe not what exactly or what reason he is after them for. She tells Lan that they will be heading south and that the Wisdom will not be accompanying them, to which Nynaeve replies that she will, thinking to herself that she will not leave Emmons Fielders alone with an Aes Sedai. And then, so they make up their mind that they're going after the boys. Nynaeve, she's worried about Egwene, but the Aes Sedai says it's the boys the Dark One wants, not Egwene. So like they are in more danger. And this is something that happens between her and Nynaeve all the time, and that you sort of have to weigh the cost here. Like, what's the greater war? What's the greater effort? Because when they're leaving Barillon, again, Nynaeve can't believe they won't go back to the Stag and Lion that is burning and help the people. But like, if we do that, then you're going to lose these Emmons Fielders, right? You're going to lose your friends and the people you're trying to protect. You're going to lose these boys. If we don't get away and you take us back there, Nynaeve, they're dead.
Yeah.
So that's tough. She's got some growing up and some learning to do, and Moraine is really this guide that is trying to help her see that in a very patient way. But she knows there's something real, that Nynaeve's got some power.
There's
right?
There's something bigger. There's something bigger that she can do, and it's because it's not just that. It's not like they just go find women and steal them. They do it for a reason. It's because it can serve a higher purpose in Moraine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now the just to kind of wrap up some of this big discussion here. So the last thing we want to kind of cover, a big plot point here, is just those guys traveling down the river. They're traveling down Arenal, the river. They're headed to Whitebridge, and they come across a guy called Captain Doman, right? And he had his way of speaking is, if you listen to the audiobook, it's very, when Captain Doman shows up, and he's a good guy. He's trying to give him passage, and he also seems to he seems to be being tracked by Trollocs and Fades himself. He seems to have some trouble, and he hopes that they don't mind that, right? But he is willing to give them passage down to Whitebridge, and you'll find out that the ship that he had, this is a character, by the way, who will show up a lot. And I keep saying, it's funny because before we started, Matt was sort of like, you would reference a character. I'm like, oh, big deal. Big deal. That guy comes up later.
Every character I mention, you say big deal.
Yeah.
The guy at guy at the gate to
right.
You're like, oh, he's huge.
Watch
really?
out.
He's like
big player there, big guy. Yeah. It's just funny because these characters, they do, even if they come back in a small way, you kind of whoa, that was 2 books ago. I mean, it's neat to see him kind of continue on with these characters. And I wouldn't have thought it when I first read this, that this is a captain who we're gonna, that's gonna be near us and stuff. And I can't even use the phrase yet. There's a reason I cannot wait till we get to Camelin, because there's a phrase I want to use with all these little things that keep happening, and it's like, why do these things happen? Why does it seem like fate or luck or chance or whatever? This guy, like, they almost, I don't know, they're rolling the dice, but they're getting the rolls they want, and it's like there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about it later. But yeah, so these guys, they end up, long story short here, they make it to Whitebridge, and they realize that Whitebridge itself, by the way, is a remnant from the Age of Legends. I mean, it is. Go look up images of Whitebridge. It's fantastic. It's kind of blows them away, especially these guys who have not been out of the Two Rivers. So they hear rumor of a false dragon of Logain who had been captured, right, and that he can channel. I mean, dude, whenever they start telling about this false dragon
Logain
in Gillidan, Logain, I mean, look out. I mean, he can channel, and they're sending Aes Sedai after him. They're going to put him down because he's claiming to be the dragon. He's called a false dragon because they're all false, really. It's there's no way that we would live in the time when the true dragon would come back, right? No one ever thinks that they're living in those times when the prophecy will be fulfilled, if you will. But yeah, so they hear about that. He also tells them that the hunt of the horn has been called in Ilion, right? And so that's awesome. Tom is considering going there so he can kind of tell the story of some of these new hunters, and even tell the old tales of some of the hunters of the Horn from times past. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, they learn all of this from once they get to White Bridge and they're in the inn there, and they run across they learned that Fane, Padon Fane, and a Fade, kind of, right, are inquiring after them. Like their description is given, like a description is given of them almost to like a T, like they're described, and they're freaked out. Like the innkeeper is, he leaves, and again Tom urges the boys to take to Doman's offer. Like he offered to kind of, you guys can sail with me, even though I've got, there's all these tales of Trollocs chasing me and stuff. Like, passage is still good aboard my ship. And he really is kind of saying you do not want wrapped up with these Aes Sedai. He starts to tell about his nephew Owen and the trouble that he got in with the Aes Sedai, and Rand suspects that Owen could channel, but Tom, he doesn't admit that, not yet. He won't. But yeah, you can tell there's a reason that Tom is upset with the Aes Sedai and doesn't want these young boys getting roped in.
Yeah, he tells them, what happens if. Because they talk about, they're kind of arguing whether they think they're safe or not. And he's like, well, what if they're not? I think it's time. It's time you guys started thinking about life after that.
Yes, right. Exactly. So, so again, we know that there's a Fade, and we know that Padon Fane is back. And for some reason, he's just been a little odd. We don't really know what's up with him or what he's doing or why he keeps kind of popping up. We saw him in Barillon, and it was like, don't tell Moraine I'm here, and all this kind of craziness. But he's here, and they're looking for the boys. Tom gets them to kind of move to where it was time to move on. We're either going to go on the boat or we're getting out of here. And as they sort of leave the inn, they are attacked. And Tom, he turns to face this Fade, and he tells the boys to run, and he tells them to go to Camelin and to seek out an inn called the Queen's Blessing. Let's go. And Tom is, he's a gleeman telling tales, and he's got this great voice, and he can sing, he can juggle, he can do all sorts of different things, right? But those knives, those daggers come out, and he's ready to go. Like, let's dance.
Yeah, he's no slouch.
No, he's not a slouch at all. He is ready to go. So, I don't know, man. Real Tom Maryland fans, stand up, because he shows up in that chapter. He is ready to go. And they think he's dead. That's the thing. And we don't know. This point moving forward, they even themselves are sort of like, well, maybe he's alive, but he's dead. I think how could he have survived? He was fighting a Fade. And that's sort of the thing it's pulling at you, right? Is that you're sort of like, is he dead? Is he not dead? We just don't know. Rand and Matt take off down the road, and they're going to have to kind of make their way to Camelin now on their own. And they just don't know enough about the world, so it's going to be a lot tougher without Tom to kind of guide them and help them in their decision making.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, I think it's time for us to move on over to what are we calling it? Are we calling it a raven? Are we calling it contacting us? I've been told that it's actually messages are passed through the eyes and the ears of the Ajas.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Their spy network. Yeah. I'm still trying to. I think we'll just bumble through it for the next several months until somebody says, like, guys, just call it this.
That's fine,
and that'll be fine.
That's fine.
And actually, I wanted to, let's see here. Lord Hunter had sent us a message here. Let me pull this up real quick. Let's see. Well, we have a couple. I'm digging in here. So Melissa had sent us something. She's excited that we're doing, let me see here. Okay. She's, so hey, here we go. Hey guys, I'm a listener from your Bend the Knee podcast. I started, to read The Wheel of Time and was very excited to hear you guys were doing a podcast for this as well. So far it's been great. Keep up the good work. It must be hard having so many, irons in the fire. We appreciate all your hard work. Okay. Let's see. Okay, she has one request. If it can help, please don't post spoilers in the podcast description. I was coming to listen to chapters 1 through 9, and my eyes accidentally wandered over chapters 10 through 17 description and saw something and it went, wow. So some people are legit like this is their very first read. So
that's me.
In the description. I mean, that's tough though. Like, yeah, right. Yeah, that is you for sure. That's tough. Yeah, eyes wandering over the description of the next episode. Okay, yeah, I will look at that and we'll try to fix that and make sure that there's no spoilers even in the first couple lines, I guess, of the description.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but hey, thanks, Melissa, and we're glad you're along for the ride with us. This is cool. I keep wondering how many people are listening and it is their first time, or it's or they've read this time and time again, right? Kind of like your brother who has read it numerous times, and really it's just a reread to gather different people's thoughts.
Yeah,
right?
He said that he's now started reading it again. Thanks.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. He said I'm already. Last time I talked to him, well, he was just here in town, and he said that he was already past book 2. So.
Gotcha. Well, good. I mean, that's what we want. We want it to be, we're happy to have a veteran readers and also, people reading for the first time. So, yeah, there's that. All right. So yeah, we do have an email here from James Hunter, our good buddy there. He says, "Hey, sirs, how's it going? Those chapters felt like an epic chunk of story. I'll just hit the main things I walked away with." And he's kind of talking about, chapters 18 through 26 here. The battle cries were badass. The first time for me in the story where I think, where I think they all are differently connected. And so, it's the battle cry right before they get into Shadar Logoth. I told Sir Matt about this. I love that part where they're really just something takes over them, right? It's almost like another man's, as Matt said, another man's mouth, or they were speaking with another man's mouth, or someone else's voice was coming through, and Moraine has to explain to them later on what happened. It was awesome. Let's see. Point number 2 here. I love Perrin's storyline, and I can't wait to see how his abilities, progress. And so something we'll touch on here in the extended edition is really what is going on with Perrin and Elias. We'll talk about that for sure. Yeah, and then Tom is the mother bleeping man. Yeah, no kidding. You're darn right he is. Yeah, he's like, I really feel that he's more than just a Gleeman. He's more than just a Gleeman, as we just kind of talked about. Yeah. Rand has a bad sleeping problem, and it's making me have a sleeping problem as well. Laugh out loud. Thanks. Enjoy the podcast. So, yeah, good to hear from him, and it's neat, man. It's neat to see and hear people's excitement about the series, whether they're reading the first time or they're just getting into it. I think it's exciting. So.
Absolutely. So. All right. Do we have any more? There's one in
I think that's it.
There's one in the dock. Is that one we've already read?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, all right. Well, I already kind of did my prediction in that I think that Matt stealing the dagger was an absolutely awful idea that will clearly come back to bite them at some point. I don't know when, but clearly it's some point. Whether it's some sort of tracking or it just is some sort of dark power attached to it. Obviously an awful idea.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think, yeah, it's so. Okay, yeah. You've said that for sure. Do you? Let me ask you this. Let me think here. So, Mordeth? Do you think we'll see him again
at some point? Yeah, I definitely think we'll see him again at some point. I think probably towards the end of this book. I think whether or something. Yeah, and then I think it seems like they're also about to be pretty close to catching up with each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think they're all going to get back together, but it seems like Egwene and Perrin, I think, are going to be found first by Moraine and Nynaeve.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. Yeah, we'll have to see just sort of how they, who the different path here. They're on their own now, and they're not all being guided by Moraine. Actually, all those individuals who really have the wisdom or who are good guides are kind of all in one group. I mean, Lan, Moraine, and Nynaeve are who we looked up to. Tom Maryland to some degree, but now he's gone. So Matt and Rand are on their own, and Perrin and Egwene are air quote on their own, if you will, with I guess Elias is there to some degree helping them out. But yeah, so there we are. That's where we're leaving those characters, and we'll get back to them next time and keep moving through the Eye of the World. This is it's exciting.
It is.
So.
It's great. So, okay. Well, I just want to remind people you can check us out on Twitter at The Horn of Valir, as well as Facebook. We have a Facebook page there as well where you get updates. Or check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/The Horn of Valir. And with saying that, we want to thank you for answering the call. In our next episode, we will be discussing The Eye of the World, chapters 27 through 34. In our extended edition of this episode on Patreon, we're going to be talking a little bit more in depth about the Tinkers, the Way of the Leaf, Egwene, and Perrin.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a message at thehornofvalir@gmail.com.
We will see you on February 15th, and remember that the grave is no bar to our call.